Fireweed Zinc is a Canadian mining exploration company focused on advancing the Macmillan Pass project. This project has been responsible for several impressive zinc-lead-silver discoveries in the Yukon Territory in Canada. CEO Brandon Macdonald was born in the Yukon and raised in a mining family. He is a professional geologist with a diverse experience base, including exploration geology worldwide and metals and mining-focused investment banking. Brandon Macdonald with his update on Fireweed's Macmillan Pass project.
Willem, zinc.
Yeah, not so sexy, not that sexy as gold or silver, but zinc is an important base metal. You know, we have three important base metals: copper, nickel, and zinc, we always say. Copper is used for, well, everything electrical. Nickel is used for batteries, mainly nowadays. And zinc is used in the car industry. You know, we used to produce cars without zinc, and then
They got rusty.
yeah, very rusty.
Yeah, like the French cars.
And the Italian cars.
And the Italian
now
ones.
every car is zinc is applied, and rust is no problem anymore. And that's one of the main reasons we need zinc.
Okay, and the Yukon territory, it's a very interesting territory. You've been there.
Yeah, and the Yukon is well known, of course, because of all the gold rush videos. But there's a lot of mineralization to be found in the Yukon. You know, it's very high up in the Arctic, almost Canada, high up near Alaska. I traveled to Fireweed's project. If we look at the chart first, Fireweed Zinc share price didn't move that much. Took a while. Last few weeks, it really started to kick higher. It's up 96% year to date, mainly because they made a new discovery recently. And I've been there myself last year, traveled to their project. They have a small landing strip, so you fly there with a small airplane. At the end of the runway, there's a wreckage of one of the planes which
Really?
crashed there some years ago.
They just leave it there.
Yeah, they just leave it there. But as you can see on videos, I've made some selfies there as well. And actually, I walked up the hill to their discovery site. That's where the outcrop is, so where you can find the rocks. And if you break the rocks, you see the silver and lead and zinc in the rocks. And it's an amazing discovery. And well, last week they published a new release about what they say significant mineralization discovered at a new target. I think that's the reason why the shares jumped quite a bit in recent weeks. But I like the story. It's not a sexy story. It has been difficult for Brandon to get enough financing to be able to drill the project this summer, but he was able to get a few million extra, and he's drilling now, and he's successful. And he's a great guy, and he was born in the Yukon, and we like it.
That's a good story. Let's hear the presentation of Brandon Macdonald of Fireweed Zinc.
Hi, I'm Brandon Macdonald, CEO of Fireweed Zinc. I want to thank you for joining me here today at CDFund's Discovery Day. I want to present to you the story of Fireweed Zinc and our Macmillan Pass zinc-lead-silver project located in Yukon Territory, Canada. As with all juniors, I'm going to be making forward-looking statements, talking about what has happened on our project, what is happening now, and what might happen in the future. In summary, to describe why you might consider Fireweed Zinc as a part of your portfolio, there are several important elements to think about. First, that we are just beginning a base metals bull market. The gold market has already seen a substantial move, and as is usual in commodity bull runs, gold is the tip of the spear in the commodity bull run. Base metals will be coming soon, and this is a great time to be looking at base metal projects. Furthermore, one of the impacts of COVID-19 is an expected massive stimulus investment in infrastructure. Infrastructure means steel, steel means galvanization, galvanization means zinc. This is an important thing to consider when you're looking at which base metals to invest in. When you are thinking zinc, Macmillan Pass project is a clear standout, not just in terms of size nor economics. It is also a clear standout in terms of the blue sky potential. This project is truly something special, and we think that it could be even more special yet. And what's good to note is that the big names are already paying attention to our project. Resource Capital Funds, a large mining-focused PE fund out of Colorado, has invested in us. The CDFund has invested in us. Teck Resources, one of the world's largest zinc miners, has invested in us. And all of that plays into what could be a game-changing program this summer. 2020 will be a formative year for Fireweed as we look to prove up the new western zone in the property called the Boundary Zone. And despite a pretty substantial bounce off the bottom at COVID lows, Fireweed remains incredibly cheap. This is essential when you're a deep value investor looking for plays that not only could re-rate on news, but fundamentally represent value as is. This is a critical factor for Fireweed and something that really makes us stand out. First, it's important to understand, well, what is zinc used for? I mentioned a little bit about the importance of zinc in steel and galvanization. It is also critical in alloys, brass and bronze, chemicals, fertilizers. It is also an interesting metal for some nascent battery technologies, zinc air batteries, zinc solution batteries. The major demand drivers in the zinc market include infrastructure, as discussed, automobiles, the electrification grid in terms of towers, power plants, etc. Anywhere you see major infrastructure investment, zinc is in heavily use. Fundamentally, if you consider yourself an infrastructure bull, if you think that the US and Europe need to refresh aging infrastructure, if you think that China and India, etc., will continue to invest in major infrastructure projects, you are a zinc bull. And when understanding what the impact of COVID might be, it's important to consider there's already been about $12 trillion in stimulus, mostly about liquidity, injected into the global market since the start of the COVID outbreak. What we'll see going forward is a shift to more fiscal stimulus, investment in infrastructure. Infrastructure is one of the few places where governments can spend a lot of money and get tangible long-term results. As I mentioned, if there's investment in infrastructure, there is a significant impact on zinc demand. And the question is, if there's a significant impact on zinc demand, where does zinc supply come from? Like a lot of base metals, investment in exploration and development has been lagging. Most recent new projects have been brownfield. And zinc, unlike other base metals, has a disproportionate amount of supply come from China. This comes mostly from small mines. As you can see from the mine output in China figures there are no large zinc mines in China. In fact, most zinc mines in China are small, kind of mom and pop operations that may or may not be permitted. As China looks to get more serious about environmental regulations and permitting, they're going to shut down a lot of these mines. And that is a major threat to China's ability to keep up with their voracious zinc demand and with their outsupplied zinc supply. Fireweed is part of the Discovery Group. You would have already heard Great Bear present the keynote here. And what's important to realize is that Discovery Group is not a for-profit center. Discovery Group is a loose collection of like-minded companies. We're focused on real projects with real chances, with people who care about delivering real investor returns. Some of the companies you may have heard of include not just Great Bear, Bluestone, Elemental, and the recent success of Kodiak. Fireweed is a proud member of Discovery Group and has been since our IPO. That membership with Discovery Group feeds into our corporate philosophy. We start by always treating shareholders with respect. There's nothing more important than ensuring that you are honest, show integrity with shareholders, follow through on their requests and questions, and are upfront about your project challenges. Every project has challenges. Any mining CEO who treats their project as a slam dunk or a foregone conclusion is ignoring risks. We focus on these risks and are clear about these risks. We also focus on long-term value creation. We don't look for short-term share price appreciation at the expense of long-term value. We're not here to pump the shares up and have certain shareholders benefit from that. We want to focus on the things that really add value: exploration, engineering, social license. And into that, we want to see a profitable exit for all shareholders, not just the little ones, not just the big ones, but everyone. This means we have to be aggressive, but we have to be pragmatic. We have to think about what actually delivers long-term value and what is a shortcut and will not deliver long-term value. And most importantly, management has skin in the game. We continue to invest in the project. We own quite a bit of the company. and management has invested quite a bit this year. Our chairman, in fact, has invested about $500,000 Canadian in the company in the last 9 months. This makes sure our interests are completely aligned with all of our shareholders. And that chairman is John Robbins. He is one of the principals of Discovery Group. He founded and was chairman of Kaminak Gold Corporation, another Yukon-based company which sold for $500 million to Gold Corp. He's involved in Elemental Royalties, K2, Bluestone, Kodiak, etc. And he was winner of AMBBC's H.H. Spud Hustis Award in 2008 for excellence in discovery. Myself, I'm CEO. I'm formerly of Macquarie Bank in London. I'm a geologist by trade. I've done everything from explorer to banking and everything in between. Our key people and the rest of our board are critical. Ultimately, you have to surround yourself with people who contribute to the success of the company. I like to joke that we have 6 geologists in the company and I'm 6th best. And that's an important distinction because I don't need to do the geology. I have to hire geologists around me who are the best at what they do. And we've assembled a truly excellent team. Market cap right now of Fireweed is about $47 million. This is on the basis of 55 million shares outstanding and a closing price of about 85 cents on September 23rd. We have about $4 million in cash, which will probably be about $2 million when the dust settles on our program at the end of the year. And we have about $4 million worth of in-the-money warrants. Our share price performance over the last year has been pretty solid. We dipped deeply like a lot of people did during COVID, but have made a strong recovery and are making excellent headway now. Our ownership, as I said, 12% management, Resource Capital Funds 10%, and then the ownership from Tech 8%, and Hudbay, one of the original vendors, 8% as well. And what's important is that of the remaining shares, 32% of the total share count is held by people we would consider close associates, people who we can make a quick phone call to check in to see where they're at and whether they need an update. This keeps our float low and primes us for movement when we get good news. To discuss the project, first let's talk about the location. So the project is located in Yukon Territory, Canada. It's on the eastern edge of Yukon, near the Northwest Territories border. This is a remote part of the world, but we benefit from road access to the project. And this is critical because so many great projects explored and discovered in remote locations need immense investment in infrastructure to get off the ground. For us, that's not the case. We have, with that existing road and with access to deep sea ports in Alaska and railhead in British Columbia, we have the ability to ship concentrate all over the world. In 2018, shortly after we had bought the project in 2016 and gone public in 2017, we completed an initial PEA, and that was on the basis of a 2018 resource update. So this resource update, 11.2 million tons indicated, 39.5 million tons inferred, at around 10% zinc equivalent, is a very, very substantial resource. And this fed into a PEA to hit all the marks we wanted to see. We saw a healthy after-tax IRR, a healthy after-tax NPV, and critically a long multi-cycle mine life. Zinc, like a lot of metals, is cyclical, but perhaps a bit more cyclical than most metals. So when acquirers are looking for big base metal projects, they like to see that long multi-cycle mine life to know that whenever they build it, they're going to be able to catch a few of the cycle highs and make sure they well more than return their capital. But what's critical when you think about this 2018 resource and PEA is that these were just a snapshot at a point in time. The project has changed a lot since then. Additional drilling of the 2 main deposits, Tom and Jason, has delineated more resource. We've improved grades there. Our new boundary zone, which I mentioned in the western part of the property, has no resource on it whatsoever. We've done additional engineering to focus on critical parts of the mine plan, and we've got government funding to the tune of $71 million on our access roads, which will defer much of our capex. The project as a whole is about 540 square kilometers, and yet the area of influence of that 2018 resource and PEA was only about 10% of that. That's the Tom and Jason deposits you see in the bottom right there. And as we think to updating that study and progressing the project, we think, well, what is the impact of boundary zone, of end zone? What is the potential impact of other exploration opportunities within the broader project? And when you think about the size potential that we can hit and that we think we'll hit, this makes for a very meaningful potential prize. In the last 5 years, in fact, the largest takeout of a single asset pre-production junior was Arizona Mining. Their Taylor Hermosa project, zinc project in Arizona, was a massive zinc project that was very attractive to South 32, and they bought it for 2.1 billion Canadian in cash. Critically, Arizona Mining delivered about a 30x return in the last 2.5 years of its existence as the market clued into how special that deposit was. We see now, based on this chart before you with resource size versus average grade, zinc plus lead, the Macmillan Pass is about 1/3 the size of Taylor Hermosa. But what I want to demonstrate in the rest of this discussion is how we're going to close that gap, how much bigger Macmillan Pass can get. We look at the Tom North, which is a zone adjacent to part of the Tom deposit, which we drilled off last year and which was not in the 2018 resource. That is a meaningful amount of tonnage for an open pit resource. We look at Tom East, another zone within Tom, where a step-out intersection hit 16 meters of 21% zinc, 13.5% lead, and 240 grams silver. This is a truly stellar intersection, and as a step-out of an already high-grade zone, reflects the opportunity to add more very high-margin tons in that area. Adjacent, we know that the two halves of Jason Main and Jason South, are likely parts of a syncline and connected at depth. That's a fold. So as we drill deep to connect that syncline, we'll add resource tons hopefully at the bottom. Additionally, as we see elsewhere in the property, the bottom of synclines at the hinge of the fold often is a collection of higher grade resource area. And this is in part because of the pressure solution of galena, which is the lead mineral, as the deformation happens, and then it gravity concentrates at the bottom of the fold. We are very excited to be drilling that in the coming years. But the talk lately has all been about boundary zone. Last year, we drilled 2 holes into boundary zone and hit some truly stellar intersections. 230 meters of 4.1% zinc. The first 100 meters of that from surface, 7.95% zinc. This is a target that could be a very low strip open pit. So when you think about the average head grade of a zinc mine in the world, which for open pits is probably closer to 3%, this is a very healthy open grade resource, potential resource. And critically within it, the broad lower grade intersections, but some very high grade small intersections as well, 6.4 meters of 42% zinc. So boundary zone kind of has it all. It has the very high grade, but it also has this mass open pit potential. We drilled the 2 holes last year, followed up some Kamenko, now Tech drilling that was done in the 80s and 90s, and then did some more work this year to explore in that area. What we found was a massive gravity anomaly at boundary zone. Using the strength of the gravity field at various parts of the project, we did about 50 line kilometers of gravity survey in and around boundary zone. This showed it extended quite a bit to the east and even further to the west, and reflected a size potential 2 or 3 times larger than had previously been thought for an already quite large zone. So the core of boundary was about 400 meters wide. But now we have very solid indication, not just because of this gravity anomaly, which reflects that it's potentially 500 to 600 meters further west and 300 to 400 meters further east, but recent drilling results did show the presence of zinc and lead mineralization in those further west holes that we drilled this year. Assays on that are pending, but suffice to say, management and our technical team are very excited. And what's interesting about boundary zone is that it's not like Tom and Jason. Tom and Jason are the classic SEDEX deposit, which you might think of like Red Dog or Mount Isa, Century Mine, Sullivan Mine. But boundary zone is much different. This is more sort of hydrothermal sphalerite, which is the zinc sulfide mineralization in veins and breccias and big, quite coarse veins. So when we were looking at this, it was quite a bit unlike anything we had seen before. What we found in our research is that the mineralization at boundary zone had a very strong resemblance to the lower part of Red Dog. There they call it vein ore. You can see the photos of vein ore on the right there. So this is quite interesting to us because this is quite pervasive at the lower part of Red Dog, which is the world's preeminent zinc deposit. And we think it has an opportunity to be very, very extensive at boundary zone too. In fact, based on the drilling we did this year and did last year and it'll be done by Caminco. We're thinking boundary zone is at least a 1 kilometer strike, the core of it, which translates to, not 30, 40, 50 million tons, but potentially 100 million plus, maybe 150 million or more. So the metal endowment there could be truly massive. Now, using this geological analog of boundary zone and Red Dog, it's helped us explore in that region and use the tools that Teck has used to explore their area around Red Dog and try to find success in our area. So we have a bunch of exploration targets now using these methodologies in and around not just boundary zone, but in and around Tom and Jason. What's critical here is a thesis for how these form, and then methodology to go explore for more of them. So, we kind of have a wealth of opportunities here. This is a true district. This is not just one deposit. In fact, there are 4 verified deposits there: Tom, Jason, End Zone, and Boundary Zone. There are sniffs of at least 6 more, and we think there may be more yet. So when we consider the potential upside of this project and where we're going to end up in the peer chart when the dust settles, we believe that this is going to be an incredible resource, global resource that truly stands out. And using that exploration thesis, we look at the structure, we look at geochemistry, we look at geophysics, as I talked about, and we use that to look at where are these first and second order faults intersecting, and that helps us build towards a drill-ready target. The 240-mile target, which you saw on the map before, that's a target, for example, that we've done all the necessary work to nail it down, and now we'll move on to drilling it. So this year, probably one of the last drill holes of the season, we're going to test the 240-mile target, which is an exciting target that sits between Tom and Jason and may represent another stratiform, SEDEX-style zinc-lead-silver deposit. But all of this plays into what is a blueprint for value creation. We start with that 2018 PEA, which is a base case. It's stale dated, but it's a good place to start. You look at the government spending $71 million on our access roads and infrastructure. That's going to reduce our upfront CapEx, which means more NPV. You look at the engineering optimizations that are available to us, including increasing pit size at Tom, using new geotech and geochem data elsewhere for the same thing. That means more NPV. We look at expanding the resource at Tom and Jason just by updating the resource based on the drilling we've done since 2018. That is more NPV. And then boundary zone, of course, with so much massive potential and potential mineral endowment there, we need to get a maiden resource on that. We need to integrate it into a larger mine plan. And that should mean much, much more NPV. And the exploration potential elsewhere, who knows? That could contribute a lot. It can contribute a little, but it's blue sky and could be very meaningful. So all of that means, the project now, you look at what the NPV was in 2018 and you consider what it could be. Now, NPV is not a perfect metric for value, but it's a very good starting point. And for us to now take this concept of how we create value, we need a roadmap going forward. So in the next few years, we'll be drilling off boundary zone, getting an initial resource on that. We'll look to update the new global resource in early 2022, and that will feed into a new PEA that integrates Tom, Jason, boundary zone, etc., hopefully around Q2 2022. What we're really targeting here is a true Tier 1 project. Everyone has a different definition of what a Tier 1 project is. To Fireweed, it's a project that has a long multi-cycle mine life. It's one that is top 10 for its commodities in terms of production profile, and it's something that has a first or second quartile cost. We think that Fireweed's Macmillan Pass project can be a Tier 1 project, and we don't think many other juniors out there with zinc projects have anything like an eye to that sort of scale and opportunity like we do. So thank you very much for listening, and please enjoy the rest of the conference. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach me at brandon@fireweedzinc.com, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Brandon, thank you for this presentation. I hope you're live with us as well for the Q&A. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, the sound is a little, the volume is a little low on this side, but I think we can hear you. We have some questions ready, and the first question is, why was Brandon wearing a suit?
Yeah, it's kind of like Madonna, right? It's a mid-concert change.
Yeah, because, we are among friends. We don't need suits with the Commodity Discovery Fund. So.
Yeah, well, you can tell I filmed that last week because the one slide I said current share price 85 cents, and I think we're bid for 125 right now.
Yeah, what happened? How much can change in a week? I think that was great discovery news.
Yeah, no, because it was Thursday after I filmed it that we put out the news about the big step-out intersections at Boundary Zone.
Is that a game changer?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we already kind of knew from the drilling that Caminco did at Boundary Zone and that we had done that the core of it was pretty substantial. And then the gravity anomaly extending that to the west was of course very interesting, but you have to drill test the gravity anomaly eventually. So that's what we did this year. And the step outs very substantially to the west of the core boundary hit broad zones of mineralization, assays pending. Which we're very excited about. So that, fundamentally, if we can backfill it, is going to double the size potential of Boundary Zone.
But must have been a very frustrating year for you, because in the early part of this year, you didn't know if you had enough money to even have a drill program this summer.
Yeah, it shows you how quickly things have changed in this industry. We did what might be called a desperation financing in March. To keep the lights on at 30 cents. Yeah, you're welcome. Your LPs and your fund have done well. So then we did another financing at 53 and then another one yet at 63, and we're currently trading at 125. So I think, the people even in the final financing are pretty much sitting on a double.
So what are your plans for the next 6 to 12 months? I read in your press release that you even think about staying there all winter, although it's high up in the Arctic. What are the plans?
Yeah, look, we're going to leave a lot of equipment there over winter. We're going to have 60,000 liters of fuel filled in our tanks there over winter, but we're not going to drill much more than about another week and a half from now. Mostly what that's intended to do is give us the opportunity to start in spring next year. Traditionally, the road opens in June, so you have to wait for the roads open unless you want to fly stuff in. So having all that there ready to go means that we can get started well in advance of the road opening. And if the market appreciates our results and we're able to do a successful fundraising, which I think will happen, then we definitely got to take a look at getting started early.
But then for investors, the next winter months could be a very nice opportunity to buy your stock a little cheap again, because your current market cap is only 40 million. Let's look at Reyna Silver, which is also a presenting company. They even have to start drilling yet, and they value it at 80 million.
Well, I think when you two started the kind of preamble to my presentation, it was like zinc, like, roll your eyes, right? Like that's, it's an issue base metal companies have, particularly, unless you're copper, and nickel's a bit hot right now. But, look, I pointed to Arizona mining as a great example. No bigger takeout of a single asset junior in the last 5 years. That's clearly the big corporates are not bored by zinc if they're willing to pay 2 billion Canadian for an asset.
But that means there's so much upside for Fireweed. If your discovery will lead into a project which will be mineable.
Yeah, and I think, the great thing is that our resource at Tom and Jason, the areas that influenced the 2018 Resource and PEA, as a fallback, are like better than most zinc juniors could possibly aspire to. So, it's like our plan B is pretty fantastic. But obviously the plan A is like next level yet.
Final question. What's another great zinc exploration play you like in the world?
Yeah, I think the two closest peers that I like both are Tinka and Osisko Metals, which have quite a bit of size as well. I think that we're kind of now I think Fireweed just about is caught up to them in terms of valuation. But they're good teams, good projects for sure.
Well, thank you. We also own positions in those companies. Thank you. We have to go on. Brandon, see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.